It's a fact of life. We're all getting older. I'm as disappointed about that as anyone, but that's just the truth. And as we get older, two very specific things start to happen. Either we become good at things that we were not good at before, or we become worse at things that we were good at before. Just give that quote a moment and I'm sure eventually that'll make sense in your mind. I mean, as an example of getting better with age, as you go from your teenage years into your 20s, you could eventually start to lift more weights in the gym. So you could become stronger as you get older. But then as you start to push your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, things start to drastically change. You may not be able to lift as much in the gym as before, you may not be as mentally sharp as before, you may not be as mobile as before. Things have changed. And because as you get older things start to change, you may not be as appealing to companies as you may have been when you were younger. And there's no greater evidence of this than what's happened to Joe Biden. Not only is the man 81 years of age, but various news outlets are now commentating on this, saying he's too old to win. And senior Democrats are weighing in on this presidential race by saying there's only one reason that the race is so close, and that's because of Joe Biden's age. I mean, just look how much he slowed down in this before and after comparison on TikTok.
In civil rights, and those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
He wants to get away with, get rid of the ability of Medicare
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I oppose.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with.
The same also goes for Donald Trump. I mean, he's 78 years of age, and he will undoubtedly face questions over what The Guardian is reporting as his often rambling, confused speeches.
But if I'm sitting down and that boat's going down and I'm on top of a battery, and the water starts flooding in, I'm getting concerned. But then I look 10 yards to my left and there's a shark over there. So I have a choice of electrocution or shark. You know what I'm going to take? Electrocution. I will take electrocution every single time. Do we agree? I will take electrocution.
But before we move on, let me just say, because I know the political hemisphere in America is very divided at the minute, let me just say right now, let me assert with all of the insistence, conviction and rhetorical force at my command, and for the avoidance of doubt, I'm not betting on any horse in this race. I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, I'm just interested in the age factor, because that's what this video is themed on. Good, now that's the disclaimer out of the way, let's move on. So this got me thinking, because clearly age is a big factor in this presidential race. It got me thinking, is age also a big factor in the corporate workplace? Will age prevent someone from being hired? I mean, think about it, if you're over 50, and you've got a wealth of experience behind you, you've had a very good career up to this point, and all of a sudden you stop finding work or you stop being offered opportunities to work, you may start to question what's going on, what's happened. Well, if this survey is anything to go by, it seems that companies are moving away from hiring experienced, older workers. Now, this survey was created by a company called Max Solutions, based out in Australia. They're an employment services company. And what they found was 30% of the employers that they worked with admitted reluctance to hiring older workers. Just for context, that survey was delivered out to 500 companies, so that 30% is 150 companies. So it begs the question, why? Well, they followed it up with the 4 most common reasons these employers gave. Of the companies that took part in this survey, 27% said that they wouldn't hire someone because of their proximity to the retirement age. In other words, they're just a little bit too old and they can't risk someone deciding to retire if they need someone long term. 23% say that the salary expectations for older workers is just a little bit too high. So they're not going to bother taking on or interviewing older workers because the labour cost will increase dramatically given their wealth of experience and know-how. 22% believe that the older workers have greater health or medical concerns. And we addressed this with the current presidential race. You know, a lot of news outlets and a lot of the American people are picking up on these health concerns. And finally, 21% have concerns regarding the ability of older workers to learn new skills and new technologies. Because if they're so far in their career, are they too set in their ways? Are they willing to change? Can they change? Okay, let's break this down one step at a time. Let's start with the first reason, proximity to retirement age. Now this one depends entirely on what the employer is after. I mean, if they're looking for someone to stick around for 6 months to a year, then someone close to retirement age can do that. Let's say they're 2 years away from retirement. They can do a 6 month to a 1 year gig because it's a short-term contract and it won't infringe on their desire to retire. But on the other hand, if an employer is looking to hire someone long-term, and you've got to think about the amount of time, effort, and money you've got to spend in that person, invest in that person, to get them to where they need to be so they can operate at peak levels, then I can imagine that hiring an older worker would be a concern. How much time, effort, and money would an employer be willing to invest in someone if they knew they were going to leave in a very short period of time? I know I said earlier it comes down to the company, but it also comes down to the individual being interviewed, because how much time are they willing to invest in the company and in the role? Are they willing to be there long term? Now the second reason, salary concerns. Now if you're an older worker who's been around the block, you've got a wealth of experience under your belt, you've dealt with challenging situations, you know how to manage teams, you know how to do all the basics, then it's natural that you're going to want to command a higher fee for your services because you've been there several times, you've done it several times, you've got the t-shirt, you know what you're doing. Now, even if an employer has posted something like salary dependent upon experience, they will still think to themselves, this person is older, this person's got more experience, this person's going to cost us a lot of money going forward. Now, why a company would be prepared to say salary dependent upon experience and then not be willing to pay the salary in reflection of the experience is beyond me, because that shouldn't be the case. And it appears to be a common fact. Just look at this. More older Americans are working, earning higher wages, and nearly 20% of all US adults aged 65 or older are now employed. So yeah, it seems with age comes money. But how much money are employers willing to fork out for your services? That's a matter for them, and that depends upon your own personal financial demands. Okay, reason number 3. Health and medical concerns. Now we touched on this earlier with tangible examples with Trump and Biden of age slowing them down. But it's a fact of life that as we get older, we will eventually start to slow down. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because someone has health issues, they're going to miss time on the job. I mean, some health issues they could maybe take care of when they're at home, and it wouldn't deter them or stop them from going into the workplace and putting in a full shift. And I guess this also ties in with the 4th reason. Concerns over workers' abilities to learn new skills and technologies. I mean, what sort of health concerns are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with cognitive decline? Are we dealing with not being able to lift as much as you could have done in your younger days if you're something like a construction worker? You know, what type of health concerns are we dealing with? If it's mental or cognitive decline, then I can understand the struggle behind learning new skills and technologies because it may take an older worker a bit more time to get used to this new set of skills and requirements. But this again comes down to the extent of the health concerns and the requirement to learn new technologies and skills. How many new skills are they going to need to learn? These are the kind of questions that employers will need to factor in when making that ultimate decision on who to hire. So that's what the article and the report says. Now, what about my own personal thoughts in conclusion? Well, personally, I think it's very silly to completely disregard what older workers can bring to the workforce, to the company, and most importantly, the influence they can have on younger workers. I've worked with people 20 or 30 years my senior, and I can tell you from experience that they are as sharp and as hardworking as the next guy. They are completely on it every time, they turn up every time, they give 100% every time, and because of their level of experience and knowledge, they can educate others who may not be exposed to certain practices on what's required to get these tasks and these projects completed. There's a place for everyone in the workforce and in society. And when it comes to older workers, I think Reagan sums it up best in this clip.
It was Seneca or it was Cicero, I don't know which, that said, if it was not for the elders correcting the mistakes of the young, there would be no state.
Plus, the older workers are of an old school mindset. You know, they don't take BS from anybody, they just say it as it is, they tell you it like it is, and they expect you to deal with the situation without sugarcoating anything. That to me is a refreshing way of operating. But those are my opinions. What do you guys think? And there we have it. We've reached the end of another video. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you that tuned in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you enjoyed this video. I'll be returning, of course, in the next couple of weeks with some more content. But until then, stay safe, stay blessed, and best of luck in your job hunt. I'll see you all real soon. Take care.